Alright, let's jump into the following problem. The graph in the xy plane of the equation above contains a point AB. If A is between -1 and 1, which of the following is not a possible value of B? Now, three things that we need for this problem. We need the end behavior, we need the zeros, and we need the turning points. So let's jump into it first by finding the zeros. So we're going to have x minus 1 equal to 0. Then we're going to have x plus 1 equal to 0. And then we're going to have x plus 2 equal to 0. That gives us x to be equal to 1, x going to be equal to -1, and x going to be equal to -2. Now, so these are the zeros that we have. So on the zeros now, we can actually use this to actually put or sketch the graph. So to sketch the graph, I'm going to have -2, -1, and I'm going to have 1. So that's what the graph, those are the zeros for the graph. Now, given that being the situation now, I need now the end behavior. To do the end behavior, I need the leading coefficient and the leading degree. So I'm going to multiply this by this. X by x by x going to give me x cubed. So here the leading degree going to be 3 and the leading coefficient going to simply be 1, which means it's positive. So as a result, we know that the end behavior of this graph will look something like this. Now, if the leading degree is 3 also, we also know that the amount of turning points is going to be 1 less than the leading degree. As a result, we're going to have 2 turning points. So if that is the case, we have enough information now to sketch this graph. So I can sketch looking something like this. So in this case, I notice now I have 1, 2 turning points, and I'm going through the 3 zeros. All right, now let's analyze the problem a little bit more. Here they said that A can be equal to -1 and A can be equal to 1 or between those two values. So A is going to be somewhere between these two values. So now given the graph, let's now analyze the answers that we have. So the first one is -2. Now what we need to be mindful of, A and B are ordered pairs, which means A is x and B is y, and those values are values that are on the graph. So we again understand that A is between these two values, which means the x value for the coordinate is between -1 and 1. So here we understand that the graph is below the x-axis. So -2 would be below the x-axis for the y value. So -2 is okay. Also, -1 would be below the x-axis, so that value is perfectly fine as well, because we're taking the x values between -1 and 1. Now for 0, we got two options. A can be equal to -1 or it can be equal to +1. In either situation, the corresponding y value would be 0. Now let's check now the last one, which is 1. So with that being the case, again, we know it's below the x-axis. The graph is below the x-axis there, and 1 would be above the x-axis. So it's impossible for the y value of this coordinate of AB, coordinate B, to be 1. So that's why D is our answer.